So Gene, thanks very much for joining us at the XebiaLabs DevOps
Oh, it's great to
2017
be
Customer
here.
Summit. Appreciate your attendance and certainly the very relevant topic of conversation you shared this morning. So one of the things we really tried to promote today with the event is a tremendous amount of information sharing among customers, right? It's wonderful that a vendor stands up and talks about our philosophy and our products and things like that, but really the goal for the event was for these different change agents and organizations to be able to interact with each other because they're all at different stages of implementing enterprise DevOps. And I wanted to get your opinion on feedback from folks you talked to about the interest in the conference as well as sort of their overall opinion of that exchange of ideas.
Oh, I mean, I think there's magic that happens when you get change agents talking to each other because they're often in a very lonely role trying to lead an organization to somewhere they may not necessarily want to go. As you mentioned, they're surrounded by people who love status quo, they resist change. And I think there's something genuinely invigorating that happens when people get to talk to kindred spirits. I loved the day because we got to hear so many exciting transformation stories, whether it was from Digital Globe, from Freedom Mortgage,
Right.
from
Nike, KeyBank. So we have
KeyBank, that was a great
yep.
one. Yeah, so the whole day was filled with just exciting transformation stories, and that really is an area of passion of mine. People transforming how organizations do work with a sense of absolute courage and conviction that they know what's right for the organization. They're elevating the state of the practice, and the reaction they get from everybody in the end is thank you, right?
Right. It's a sort of a worthwhile outcome, but the fact is that these change agents are heavily outnumbered in their organizations, and they're generally under siege in the early days of their evolution towards DevOps. So I think they'll all share with you the fact that they took a lot of arrows along the way, but the outcome was worth it.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, I think there were some parts, listening to many of the presentations, where I thought some of them were absolute maniacs, right? I mean, people, doing, I wouldn't call it reckless, but, I think the level of risk that they were willing to take to do what was right for the organization is just genuinely inspiring.
Yeah, and what we've seen that this ambition and this courage really needs to exist in organizations to get them sort of off the dock and into the water. But what we've started to see is this inflection in the market where what has traditionally been sort of a bottoms-up developer-led initiative to implement DevOps in an organization has now been supplemented with a lot of top-down, CIO-driven. We've got to get very serious about our software assets. It's how we reach our customers. It's how we gain and lose customers. We've got to get more strategic about how we build and ship our software. So I think these change agents are now recruiting more and more air cover from executive leadership in their organizations.
That is so great to see. I mean, I love risk-taking, as much as anybody, but to be able to see these leaders be able to take advantage of the highest levels of support, whether you call it digital transformation or you call it the digital revolution, for them to be able to sort of map these ambitious projects to things that, what leaders actually care about, right? I love these quotes that sound like, every business is actually a software business. I think those are things that what I love seeing is that these leaders are very savvy about being able to use these directional statements for validation of what they're doing.
Right. It's interesting about our business is we get to work with some of the biggest brands in the world, right? So it's really remarkable to be able to have a little bit of a periscope inside of their company and see how things work and see sort of the challenges that they face with regard to technology stacks and compliance and security and things like that. But what has really changed in the last couple of years, and I've seen this sort of firsthand, is that it's no longer a should we do DevOps, it's now a how do we do DevOps, right? So the enterprise needs to embrace this. They see the return on the investment. They see the change that this can really have on businesses. So it's really our goal to help them understand how to implement it versus make the decision to implement.